It's 8:45pm on Monday, October the 3rd, 2016, and once again we're live with the Cats Whiskers podcast. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Cats Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono, Bullard. Tonight we'll be looking back on Panthers against the Storm in a crazy game at the NIC on Saturday. We'll also be covering Panthers' trip to Cardiff last night, looking at some of the injuries, the rest of the EIHL news, and looking ahead to this Wednesday's Ask TCW podcast as well. I'm delighted to say that joining me is Aaron Lord.
Hello.
And making his debut on the main podcast, but you have heard him before, Adam Reddish.
Hello. Pleasure to be back, gents.
Pleasure to have you on. All right, we're going to get straight into it. And on Saturday night, Panthers took on the Manchester Storm at the NIC in a doubled-up League and Challenge Cup encounter. In the first period, Jeff Waugh giving Panthers the lead before Mario Trabucco and Trevor Johnson gave the Storm the lead. Chris Lawrence equalising before the end of the first period. Into the second, and power play goals from Alex Nikiforuk and Robert Farmer gave Panthers a 2-goal advantage before Darian Dzuzinski pulled it back to within one before that man Lawrence again made it 5-3 going into the third. Early in the third, former Panther Paul Swindlehurst pulled it back to within one before Lawrence got his hat-trick. Swindlehurst again, and then Lawrence again with his fourth, made it 7-5 before Brad Moran finished the scoring with just over 4 minutes left for a final score of Nottingham Panthers 8, Manchester Storm 5. Aaron, it was a crazy game, but hugely entertaining.
Massively so. Great game. Absolutely great game. I haven't seen that type of game for a long time, I don't think. But I loved every minute of it. Proper old school hockey. And, you know, I hope that that's not the only game like that we see this season, because it had everything, didn't it, really? You know, goals, fight, loads of niggles. Defending was very optional, and it was just obviously great that we got the win. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the game. Really, really did. I thought it was a great game, and credit to both teams because they both were, you know, played their part in it.
Yeah. Adam, I mean, we were sat next to each other, and a lot of the time we was just shaking our heads and smiling a lot.
Yeah. It was one of those games, wasn't it, where, you know, there's a bit of a feel-good factor. There's just so much happening all the time. I suppose if you took your eyes off the game for, you know, a few seconds and looked back, you'd be thinking, well, what have I missed? So it was really entertaining. I mean, if that's you know, a barometer of the entertainment levels that we're going to see at the NIC this season, then, you know, it bodes well for a very entertaining year of hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get on to the goals, we'll get the fight out of the way. So Brian McGrattan with his first fight for the Nottingham Panthers taking on Eric Nielsen of the Manchester Storm. Adam, what a great tilt.
Oh, it sure was. I mean, McGrattan showed, you know, all the power that he's got in that tilt. Fair play to Nielsen, you know, standing up to an NHL heavyweight, who, you know, I think he did all right. I certainly think McGrattan got the win in the fight. But, you know, Nielsen did well, hung on at times, you know, during the fight. But then, you know, McGrattan's an experienced enforcer, and you got to give Nielsen credit there for stepping up and going, you know, toe to toe with one of the heaviest heavyweights of the NHL in the last 10 years or so.
I mean, Aaron, that fight was quite close to you, in front of you in block 15. What was your take on it?
Yeah, well, you could see it brewing. You know, obviously, you know, as they were going to drop the puck, you could see that McGrattan wanted it. You know, Nielsen kind of played that, well, you know, not the Joker card, but sort of, yeah, I want it, but then I'm not going to want it. And it was, you know, like you said, like you've both said, it was just a great tilt. Pretty much what Adam said, full credit to Nielsen. I thought he played his role, perfectly, to be honest, throughout the whole night. I know, obviously sat with my family, they were going, oh, he's an idiot, look at him, he's just skating around looking for trouble. But I felt that he played his role perfectly, and it was just a great fight. It really was. And I think it's good that McGrattan's had that fight now. It's kind of not the monkey off the back as so, but he's had it now, and he can carry on playing hockey, which he has done since he's been here, I think, to be honest. But yeah, I was very lucky for it to happen kind of in front of me at the beginning. But I thought it was great that they went to centre ice as well, weren't it? The proper kind of show.
It was the proper theatre, the proper theatre.
Exactly. Let's go into the middle and give the fans what they want.
So, on to the actual game, and it's not a game that either defence will really look back on fondly. And Adam, I know there was at times during the game where we were just like sharp intakes of breath and shaking our heads.
Yeah, one of those where you watch from behind the sofa. No, neither side will probably want to look back and claim that they were defending very strongly on that night, because it was quite a ropey effort really by both sets of defences. But, I suppose that the counter-argument is that, the defences not being on top of their game made it an exciting spectacle for the crowd. You'd like to think that, certainly from a Panthers perspective, will tighten up as the season goes on. And obviously, we'll talk about last night's game later on in the show. But, we can show that, we are a tight defensive unit, just not last Saturday.
Yeah, Aaron, both defences were just leaving their netminders out to dry a bit, really.
Yeah, and I think you would be, from our point of view, that's a little bit surprising, especially if you think back to, the last home game that we had against Cardiff, where it was obviously very much a defensive performance. But I think from the Storm's point of view, they just took, they lost their discipline a bit too much for my liking. And, we took advantage on that on the power play. And,
four power play goals out of 7 attempts. That's a really good percentage.
And, I thought the Nottingham power play for the last couple of seasons, I think you would associate with the words kind of boring, predictable, not good enough kind of thing. That's a general assumption of the fans, and at times it's been right. But I like the way that our power play is kind of, moving. We're moving the puck. It doesn't look like we're predictable at the moment. But yeah, I mean, we don't want to be conceding five goals at home on a regular basis. And I think from Storm's point of view, to put 5 past, Mika Viekman and the Panthers in the NIC and not to come away with anything is disappointing as well, isn't it? Let's be honest.
On their part, certainly. Yeah. Two of the standout performances of the night was Chris Lawrence, who scored 4 goals, got 1 assist, and Robert Farmer, who got 1 goal and 3 assists, both having outstanding games. Now, I want to start with Robert Farmer, because I watched on the night and then I've watched back again on the highlights. The pass to Jeff Waugh for the first goal, and then the backhand pass to Lawrence for his 4th were both absolutely exceptional.
Agree. Yeah, absolutely. Top quality. But, I think people have got this perception of Robert Farmer that is a bit one-dimensional. He just steams around the ice, barging into people. He doesn't really have, finessed hands or skilled hands, and he can't, look at that side of hockey and contribute. But, he's showing us more and more regularly, which is great to see, that he can take care of the skilled side of the game, and he can contribute in those sorts of ways. So, long may it continue, really, and I guess he can continue to keep proving the doubters wrong.
And Aaron, Chris Lawrence, just 4 goals, all pretty top draw goals as well. And he is just, to use the Will Grigg chant, on fire at the moment.
And I believe
defences are terrified. Yes.
No, yeah, I mean, look, what can you say about the man at the moment? He is just performing at the highest level. I mean, and each goal was a little bit different. Some, reaction time. When you think I can't remember which goal it was, but where Dimon kind of passes to him at the back post, and you would think at that stage Dimon would actually shoot. And I don't think Lawrence is actually expecting the pass, but he manages to put a stick on it and it goes in the net. The one on the power play, again, very, very nice. Very, just smart plays. And I said at this, I think we had a question on an Ask TCW podcast, or we were talking about it, of, top point scorers for us. And if he carries on the way that he does, then my prediction, is going to be correct, because he's just on fire, to use your term, Jono.
Yeah, he certainly is. Stephen Schultz, though, went out of the game injured about halfway through. He had 3 assists up until that point and was playing superbly. I think I actually put down that he was going to be my choice for TCW man of the match, because I thought he was playing. He was playing superbly, and then went off
Jono
injured.
Curse.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stop doing this. But this is his second injury of the season. Is this getting to be a worry now?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but I suppose it depends on the severity of the injury this time around. Is it the same injury that he suffered last season that kept him out of quite a long stretch of the season? If it's a different injury, we don't know how it will heal. It might heal quicker. It depends, really. I mean, I'm not medically minded, but if it was the same injury to the same part of his anatomy that he got injured last year with, then yes, it would be a worry, because we don't know whether the injury from last season ever really fully recovered or healed. So I suppose it's one for the medics to keep under review, and hopefully he can get back into the lineup soon, because, as you said, he started the season really well, and is really contributing the points that we need.
Okay, and just before we move on, I think we've got to give some credit to Manchester Storm. They were very much a reason why it was such a great game. And I suppose, Aaron, what do you make of this Storm team? Because they are very different to last season.
They are, and obviously speaking to Neil Russell, their GM last week for the preview podcast, he said you will see a different Manchester Storm team. And Coach, you were right, because they were totally different to the one that we saw last season. I think you have to give them credit, because they've had a bit of time in the summer and they've looked at what they need for the Elite League. I can see it being very, very tough to go into the storm shelter, as they call it. And I like their bravery. I like their kind of attitude of, we're going to come into the NIC. We're not going to lay down. We're going to play a little bit, niggly, a little bit in your faces. We're going to try and rough you up at times. And I think if it wasn't for, I think they lost their discipline, like I said earlier, on certain occasions, which hurt them. And I think if they can maybe reduce that, then they've definitely got the capability to score goals. They obviously just need to tighten up at the back a little bit. But like I say, if you're giving away, power plays on a regular basis, you're going to get hurt. But I like them, and I think they will take a few scalps off quite a few teams this season. I really do. I think they've got a great team, especially for their home fans. I can imagine, they're going to love it at the Storm Shelter, to be honest. But I was impressed.
Adam?
Yeah, I agree with Aaron's assessment of Storm, really. I think they're going to bully quite a few teams at Storm Shelter this year. My only concern or worry for them is that they need to just stay the right side of the discipline line, because I don't know whether Saturday was symptomatic of their penalty kill, but we obviously scored quite a few power plays on Saturday night. And it might be a weakness for Manchester that if they go in with a gung-ho attitude and start throwing the body, but also taking a few risks, that discipline might leave them short-handed for large stretches of games, and they might get picked off by opponents. So that'd be my only worry. But it is great to see the side with so much ferocity, and they were just quite exciting and unpredictable to watch. You never quite knew what was coming with each next passing shift. So I think they'll provide rich entertainment for the fans at the Storm Shelter this year, that's for sure.
Okay. If you are listening live, you can get in touch with us on Twitter. What did you think of the game? Think of the Storm? Think of the fight? Anything about the Panthers Manchester game? It's at Cats Whiskers TV and use the hashtag TCWLive. Panthers travelled to Ice Arena, Wales to take on the Cardiff Devils last night, and it was a 3-1 victory. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by one of the Ice Time TV commentary guys who were commentating last night, John Donovan.
Evening, Jono. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just before we start, I just want to say great webcast, great commentary, and thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. You know, we know we're not the NHL. We still have a lot to learn, but I think all of us around the league have to club together to promote the game. So as long as you enjoyed it, we're very happy to provide the service.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the feedback you got from Panthers fans last night was all positive, which is great to see.
Yeah, very happy with that. I say it's there are worse things to do on a Sunday night than go and commentate on an ice hockey match. So we're pretty lucky. We've got a great view there, and as long as we're not offending too many people, we're happy to keep it going.
Yeah, a little bit different from the big blue tent. Nice central position this time.
Yes, you came and joined us on that gantry last year in the big blue tent. It was an interesting place to watch hockey. It was nice to be so close to the action, but it was also horrible to be so close to the action. Because a couple of times we were involved in some checks and some pucks came over the boards. And how we survived 3 years of doing commentary there, I don't know, but it certainly was an experience.
On to the game last night, and it was one of the things that you said a lot during the commentary, and you said Panthers just played the perfect road game.
Oh, absolutely. You know, for the Devils, they started okay the first few shifts, and for much of the game they had a lot of puck possession and good zone time, but there weren't a lot of standout quality scoring chances, maybe slightly towards the end of the second period and the beginning of the third, but for the most part the Panthers stuck to their assignments, kept the Devils to the outside, which is, you know, pretty much the script of what happened in the NIC a few weeks ago, and just so impressed, particularly with the defensive core that Corey Nielsen's got. Sertic and Spang, I thought, are fantastic additions, and Wah and Dimon last night were just superb. So I know you guys have had, you know, great scorers in previous years, and you've still got effective forwards there, but your strength this year, for my eyes, is very much in that defensive core.
What did you make of the netminder, Jim Ridpassel? He's coming for a bit of criticism in the games he's had before. Last night was his first win. Obviously the first time that you've seen him. How did you rate his performance?
I think he grew into the game. He made a big save towards the end of the first period and a couple more in the second, and his confidence grew. We referenced it in commentary that we'd have liked the Devils to have got more pucks to the net and more traffic in front of him, because early on I did think he looked nervous, and Gareth, one of my co-commentators, made that point as well, that he was giving up some rebounds in sort of the slot area, but he made one big save towards the end of the first period and continued that out into the second, and then just grew in confidence, and it really was lovely to see. I know Paul Sullivan commented on it on Twitter. It was lovely to see him at the end, the pure emotion of winning that game. He was ecstatic and he saluted the Panthers fans, and it really was nice to see a young pro who won a game, and it meant so much to him. So yeah, he was a little nervous early on. His rebound control wasn't great, but after he got a couple of key saves under his belt, he looked good. His lateral movement was very, very good. He went post to post very well. So as a backup netminder, I guess might play 20-plus games this year because of Wiekman's occasional injuries. I think he's someone the Panthers fans can believe in.
And also a man of the match performance for him as well. Moving on to the Devils, and I was watching the game and I was expecting, when is the wave going to come? When is the standout pressure going to come? And it never actually happened. I thought it might after in the second period when Mark Richardson scored, but after that he still seemed to sit back and the Panthers seemed to absorb all your forward play.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a combination of things. You know, the Panthers deserved the victory last night, and as I said in commentary, the Panthers were short bench, so no excuse is greater than that one. But I think the Devils were coming off that victory in Belfast on Saturday night where they clawed their way back into the game. You know, I don't think it's a secret that whilst the Devils are looking at all three trophies this year, the league title is the Holy Grail. And I think after such a big league win on Saturday, maybe there was a bit of a emotional downturn on the Sunday, and the Devils' energy wasn't quite there. But I know Andrew Lord, and I did the interview with him after the game, thought that the guys got away from the game plan. He would have liked the game to be a little bit messier, a little bit more chip and chase, turning the Panthers defensemen, finishing hits, making use of the fact that the Panthers were slightly short bench, but that energy never really came. So Andrew Lord, who's the ultimate competitor, he certainly wasn't a happy man afterwards.
Yeah, well, I did watch the interview that you did with Andrew Lord, and I think he was a frustrated man, but overall for the season so far, he seems quite happy.
I think so, and I think every reason to be. I think the Devils, as they've made a point of saying over the last few weeks, they haven't released anybody mid-season since the new ownership has come in. They do great due diligence on their recruitment, and it seems like another good team has come in there. Everyone's on the same page in the locker room. There appears to be scoring depth, with people like Lane Ulmer joining Joey Martin. We need to get Guy Doucette going. That's a given. But obviously Patrick Bordelow's come in and given a lot of character and presence to that room. And there's some talent on the back end as well. And Ben Bounds continues to improve every season. So I think it's great being in Cardiff. It's the first time the Devils really aren't hiding their ambitions this season, and they're saying, no, we want to compete with everybody, and the league title is our goal.
Moving back to the Panthers, and a player that I've always noticed in your commentary that you've always admired is Chris Lawrence, and he came off a great game against Manchester and just carried it on last night for the 2 periods he was on the ice.
Yeah, I sometimes get a little bit of stick in Cardiff because I kind of like the anti-heroes. Kevin Noble's not a liked man in Cardiff, but he came in the other week and played a very good game, and I gave him some praise. And Chris Lawrence has had a bit of a torrid time in Cardiff over the years and has gone with Josh Batch a couple of times. There's been some incidents, but he's the man with the hot stick at the moment, and he's obviously also a character guy with being released from Coventry last year and then a short stint at Sheffield to come back and really create a role for himself in that Nottingham team, maybe playing third-line hockey for the most part, but adding some great secondary scoring. He's a big body guy, so he gets to the net, but he's also got very, very good hands as well. And I thought that finish on the first goal was a thing of beauty, where he just took a stutter step, really, which completely foxed Ben Bounds and opened up the one side of the net for him. So he's a quality hockey player. He brings size, he brings skill, and every team in the league's looking for a player like that.
Yeah. Just looking ahead for the Devils now. So obviously you've said the ambition is for 3 trophies. In the league, do you think you can actually do it? You've been so close the past 2 seasons. Do you think this could be the season?
I think so, and taking my commentary hat off, I hope so. I bore every one of our viewers when I talk about the old days of Cardiff Devils hockey, which I grew up with in the late 80s and early 90s, and it was just sort of a given that we were going to win trophies. So I must admit, I found the drought since 96, 97, and I know the Panthers went through a far longer drought than that, but I found the drought since 96, 97 for the league trophy very hard to live with, and I think it's just a case of getting over the line that once. We got close under Jared Adams, let's not forget him. He took the Devils close a couple of times, and Andrew Lord has been a breath of fresh air. We've just... Coming down the stretch the last couple of years, we've lost big games at the wrong time, and we seem to have... We do play a very high-intensity game under Andrew Lord, a lot of high-intensity forechecking, and we seem to have run out of steam a little bit down the stretch. But I think there was a marked difference this year in terms of recruitment. There are more veteran guys in that locker room, guys who have won trophies, who Andrew Lord expects to step up in the big games. So I would hope that... we've had great last couple of years under the new ownerships and Andrew Lord, but, maybe if we have run out of steam or the mental side hasn't been there, hopefully that will change this year.
One final question for you, and Andrew Lord has gone behind the bench for the past couple of games. Do you think that's something that's going to continue for the rest of the season?
I don't think he'll continue for the rest of the season. I think he's still a quality hockey player. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be times where he needs to shake up the lineup. It was funny. The 2 players who we really could have done with last night in terms of driving to the net and being big body presence were probably Matthew Myers and Andrew Lord, and they were both one was behind the bench and one was in the stands. So Andrew Lord still has a big role as a player. He's a quality player, but the word to us at Ice Time TV is that whilst the Devils are playing good hockey, he will stay behind the bench. But he's kind of a positive shadow to have back there, that if any of the guys drop off their game as they did last night, well, he's very able and willing to jump straight back into the lineup.
Great. Well, John, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk to us, and hopefully talk to you again before the end of the season.
Absolutely, Jono. Thanks for having me, and you guys do a great job. It's always fun to listen to your shows every week, so if I'm not on the show, I'll certainly be listening.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Thanks to John there for joining us. And the goals from Sunday night, it was Devils 1, Panthers 3. Chris Lawrence opening the scoring in the first period. Mark Richardson equalising just as the second period had started. Into the third, and Matt Carter made it 2-1 before Brad Moran with the final goal at 48-19 for a 3-1 victory. And as we was talking about there, Aaron, it was just a superb defensive performance and a cracking road victory.
Yeah, very, very much so, and one that I personally didn't see coming, to be honest. And it just shows you, if you think to Saturday night, how different and how much of a, sort of a different game plan we can play, and the players can adapt to that. But yeah, I think we went in there with 14 skaters, I believe. If that's
there was
correct.
15, and then Lawrence got injured, so didn't play the third period.
So we ended on 14. 15. Still, it's still quite short benched, isn't it? Let's be honest. And I think to go to a place like Cardiff, who they're going to be right up there for the 3 trophies, and to get a 3-1 victory is just fantastic. And well done to the whole of the Panthers for making it happen. Very, very, very pleasing and very proud of that result.
Yeah, Adam, that's now 8 points with 2 games to play in the qualification group for the Challenge Cup. Do you feel that's enough for qualification for the quarters?
Another win, I think, would be nice just to confirm it. It'd be nice to win the remaining games, let alone just one. So, I don't know. You just want to keep the winning habit going, don't you? It's all well and good saying we've got enough points on the board to get through to the next round and the knockout stages, but you just want to keep the winning run going, and because obviously winning's a great habit to be in. So ideally, you'd want to win all your remaining Challenge Cup group fixtures and send out a message to the other teams that you mean business again.
Absolutely, and I say an absolutely superb road victory for the Panthers there. We've had a tweet from Tony Orr, who's listening to. He says, listening to our first broadcast after a road trip from Suffolk to see Panthers winning Cardiff last night. I mean, that is dedication, sir. From Suffolk to Cardiff is a bit of a trek. So I hope it was a good night, and I hope the result left you very happy and made the trip back quite short. Okay, we're going to move on, and obviously, with the 2 wins this weekend, Panthers 4 wins on the bounce, but are suffering from that injury curse once again. Stephen Schultz, David Clark, Chris Lawrence and Steve Lee all currently out injured, so our best British defencemen and a whole line of forwards. So, Aaron, how big of a problem is this?
Well, I would say at the moment, it's hard to judge because we don't know the actual injuries that these guys are suffering from. So we don't know the length of time that they could potentially be out. So, but it has the potential to be, very, very worrying and quite a big problem. Lawrence, as we talked earlier, man on fire, playing at the top of his game. Schultz again contributing like we know that he can. And then, we're missing our best English defenseman and our best English forward that gets us 20 goals every season. So it has the potential to harm us big time. But I would just hope that we've learned from past seasons where we've kind of not been a bit slow, but it doesn't seem that we react straight away. Maybe we're not proactive, we're a little bit reactive when it comes to injuries, but I suppose we've just got to put our faith in the medical team and in the Panthers in general that they can, either get somebody's in if they need to be on a temporary basis. It's the English. I know, don't get me wrong, Lawrence and Schultz, to replace their points production is very, very tough. But there are imports out there if they were looking for a short-term deal. To replace Brits is very, very tough. And I'm just still intrigued to see what we're going to do, if anything, to do with our Brit D-men. Because if Lee's out long-term, and obviously Oakford left, I'd like to see some movement there, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, do you expect reinforcements?
I don't know, to be honest. Like Aaron said, it depends on the severity of the injuries that the guys have picked up. What you wouldn't want is, if the players are out long term with injuries, to ask the remaining players to have to step up and do more, because you're subjecting them to more ice time, and you're making them more vulnerable to injuries. So before you know it, your 15, 14 skaters might end up being 12 skaters, because a couple of got injured through being overplayed in different situations and scenarios. So we just have to wait and see, really, and see how bad the injuries are. If the prognosis isn't good for some of them, then I think the club would have to move pretty quickly to bring in some replacements, because I think that's only fair to the rest of the roster, to be honest. I mean, you don't really want to be playing vast tracks of the season with substantially shortened bench, because, as I said, that's really going to act as a bit of a drag and a draw on the remaining guys.
Okay. We will expect injury news coming out this week. I'll keep an eye on the Panthers website. More bit of Panthers news in the Continental Cup Group B, which will take place in Jaca in Spain from Friday the 21st to Sunday the 23rd of October. Is now complete. Zetin Burnu Istanbul are the final qualifiers. I'm quite pleased with myself to have got that one. Zetin Burnu Istanbul have qualified, and they take the final place. So they will join host Jaca, HK Lipaja from Latvia, and of course the Panthers in Group B in Spain. So I have no idea of the standard of Turkish hockey, so I don't know what to expect. So
I've heard it's a delight, to be honest, Jono.
Well, I guess we will see in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, we'll move on to the other Elite League results and news. So Friday, Braehead Clan getting a welcome Challenge Cup victory against the Dundee Stars, 3-1. But the next night, Clan going down 5-3 to the Sheffield Steelers in Sheffield in an Elite League game. Now, Adam, something I want to ask you, because we was talking about it Saturday night, and post-game Saturday, you saw the Clan result in Sheffield. You said to me that you think Ryan Finnerty is on borrowed time. I think I argued against you. And do you really honestly think he'll be cut this early on in the season? And after 3 seasons of Braehead?
Well, I know he's been there a while now, and obviously he's an established figure at the club. But I just think that club is very hungry for success. And the last 2 seasons they've challenged, and they've won far more than they've lost. So I think it might be a bit of a change mentality for the organisation to find that they're losing more than they win. So how the fans take that, I don't know. I'm not sure whether there's any murmurings of discontent amongst the Clan fan base at the moment. But, if there is, and if that starts to, affect the atmosphere on match nights, then, you'd expect that Finnerty might not have a great deal of time left. I don't know.
And Aaron, your thoughts on that? Because let's face it, Neil Black isn't one for sacking coaches, especially mid-season.
No, he's not. And I think, Braehead's start has probably caught everybody by surprise, to be honest. I would think, though, that they would start to cut players before they cut Finner. I think they've obviously got a lot of trust in Finner. They do think that he's, the man to lead them to trophies. So I would imagine that if it's between, players and the coach at the moment, I think they will go with cutting players and give Finner another, I don't know how long, but a bit more trust and say, right, replace with who you want. But then maybe that is kind of like the final straw. But they need to start picking wins up on a regular basis. That's for sure. whoever's in charge.
Any Braille fans listening, get in touch at Cats Whiskers TV, hashtag TCW Live. What do you think is likely to happen to your coach? Moving on, a controversial end to the Manchester Storm and Sheffield Steelers Challenge Cup game on Sunday as Storm's final penalty shot appeared to cross the line but wasn't given. Aaron, there's been quite a row about this one, and the pictures aren't conclusive from the highlights because they're being shown front on and you can't tell at all, but the linesman appeared to give it and the referee washed it out. So if only there was a system available that could put an end to these sorts
goal
of
line
things.
technology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw a tweet today, and it was like a screenshot of it actually, and it did look like it had crossed the line. Now, obviously, it's just random that a lino gives it, but the ref washes it out. You would hope that at that that sort of stage, and they're both there on the goal line. You'd hope that mistakes aren't like that are made, but then again, it just like you said, Jono, it brings up the whole goal line technology that we were supposed to have in the Elite League, and it's I don't know, what can you say? You're going to be disappointed as a Storm fan or team, especially after they got back into the game as well. You really would be distraught, wouldn't you, and angry. And I would say it's only from that screenshot, and but I would say that the Steelers have got a little bit lucky with there, to be honest, because for my eyes, it looks like it has crossed the line.
Yeah. Huge win for the Cardiff Devils on Saturday night in Belfast. After being 2-0 down, they came back and won 3-2 in overtime. And Adam, I mean, that's a big statement win from the Cardiff Devils.
It is. I mean, any win in Belfast is a good win. Obviously, Cardiff are a fancied team this year. New arena, I should say. And they've got a good roster there. But yeah, I mean, being 2-0 down over in Belfast and coming back to win, shows a lot of character on that roster. And I'd expect, Cardiff to be there or thereabouts at the end of this season. So, maybe it's not that much of a surprise for Devils to win in Belfast. I don't know, we'll just have to see as the season unfolds.
Edinburgh Capital's winning run came to an end on Saturday night with the Dundee Stars beating them 4-1 in a Challenge Cup game. But then on Sunday night, Five Flyers 4-1 up against the Capitals. Capitals coming back to win 6-4. Great comeback win, and the Capitals just seem to be pulling it out of the bag, Aaron.
Yep, they really do. I mean, I've not paid much attention to the Capitals games so far this season. I don't know whether that nominates me for an award or anything, but what can you say about the Caps? They start the season well, don't they? They seem to pick out these results, and also not just results, but results after they've lost the previous night. They seem to have that kind of, dare I say it, bounce back ability. But it's the same, isn't it? Let's see what the Caps are doing in 2 months, 3 months' time, because I think still at this time, teams are trying to find their feet and stuff like that. We were just talking about the Clan, not performing as well. So I think let's see what the Caps are like in a couple of months' time. But what I would say about the Caps is they kind of, they backed the new gaffer, didn't they? And they've gone out there, got some experience, and a different kind of lineup, a different type of hockey. So whether that's having an effect on the results, I do not know because I've not seen them. But I don't know. Like I say, let's see in two months' time, and we'll see whether the Caps are still pulling out results like that.
Okay. Coventry Blaze have been struggling of late, and Five Flyers beating them 4-1 in the league on Saturday night. However, they did put a stop to their losing run, winning 4-1 against the Dundee Stars, playing their third game in 3 nights at the Sky Dome on Sunday night. So, a bit of a strange one with the Blaze, Adam, because they started really well and then have gone into this bit of a funk, but they do appear to be a different team under Danny Stewart.
Yeah, you'd imagine that the team would pretty much be a reflection of Danny Stewart as a player. You know, in your face, always looking to try and start things on the ice. You know, not backing down from confrontation, that sort of thing. So it does make you wonder whether, you know, they can kind of score goals regularly throughout the season. You know, I expect that they'll probably be quite a defensive-minded team. You know, not really score many goals offensively, but kind of look after the things at their own end by not conceding too many goals. I'm not sure. You know, it's still early days yet, isn't it? You know, I don't really think you can judge the league until, you know, around 7 or 8 games have been played, and there's only been a handful of games played. I know there's a bit of a difference between the number of league games that have been played by teams so far. So I think, you know, after 7, 8, 9 games, we'll have a better idea about, you know, who the movers and the shakers are going to be in the Elite League this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Before we finish, do we just want to mention the Ask TCW podcast on Wednesday night, which again will be live at 8:45 p.m. A special one this week, as we will have a guest panellist, Dr. Victoria Silverwood, a Cardiff fan, and who has also been very heavily involved in the making of Ice Guardians, the documentary film about Enforcers, which stars, of course, Brian McGrattan, and Victoria herself appears in the film documentary. If you've got any questions about the film, about fighting in hockey, that you would like to put to Victoria, please send them in to us via our usual Twitter address at Whiskers TV and use the hashtag AskTCW. Also on the Panthers pages on Facebook or the TCW Facebook page, our thread on the Cage forum, or you can email them into us. It's tcwonlinetv@gmail.com. But it's going to be a great Ask TCW, I believe, and I'm really, really looking forward to listening to it, because unfortunately I won't be taking part because I'm away, so I will leave you in the capable hands of Aaron and Tina for that one, and of course Dr. Victoria Silverwood herself. So questions about fighting are a real hot topic at the moment in hockey, so get them in and she will be able to discuss them. Okay, all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for joining us, Adam.
No problem. Enjoyed it, as ever.
And I'm sure we'll be asking you on again in the near future. We've had a tweet from Antoine Marie-Jean, who listens to virtually every show, I think, and he agrees a welcome addition to the podcast. He's
Fibers in the post, Ant.
There you go. As ever, thanks very much to Mr. Aaron Lord.
Absolute pleasure, Mr. Bullard.
And thank you very much to you for listening, as always. As I say, 8:45 p.m. Wednesday, live for a very special Ask TCW. So be sure to listen to that. But for now, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Cat's Whiskers podcast. She got teeth,